Roll call, please.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahler,
Present.
Counselor Gerson,
Present.
Counselor Trask,
Here.
Counselor Gorley,
Here.
Counselor Coleman,
Present.
Counselor Sanchez,
Here.
and Counselor Richards.
Here, but side note, I have to leave at 7 because I'm.
Let the record show Councilor Richards will be taking off early this evening for personal matters, which is fine, approved by me. Before we get started, I was saddened by the news of a passing of our finance manager's father, Mr. Greg Nish. On behalf of the city council and everybody, our condolences and our prayers. That said, I would ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second by roll call, please.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Richards,
Aye.
Mayor Mahler,
Aye.
Counselor Gerson,
Aye.
Counselor Coleman,
Aye.
Counselor Gorley.
Aye.
Let the record show we have 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of consent agenda. Actually, before I get moving forward, I kind of jumped ahead of myself here. You want to go ahead and do the online thing, which I keep forgetting we're still doing that. So.
Consent agenda approves the minutes. Is that the idea? A and B?
Yeah, correct.
Thank you to everyone who is joining us. For members of the public who would like to participate in this meeting, we have some instructions to help if you are new to using Microsoft Teams. Notice the icons in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. The second one from the left is a chat bubble icon, indicated with the yellow arrow. If you wish to be recognized by the mayor to speak, please choose the bubble icon to enter the meeting chat. It will appear on the right-hand side of your screen. First, enter your name, address, and phone number in the chat, followed by the topic you wish to discuss. If you wish to speak at any point during the meeting, you can choose the hand icon, also located in the upper right-hand corner indicated with the green arrow. It's the equivalent of raising your hand. Then, the mayor, acting chairperson, or moderator will ask you to speak at the appropriate time. We'll give everyone a few moments now to enter their name, address, phone number, and topic they'd like to address with the council in the meeting chat. We will ask in the interest of time that people not repeat a previous speaker, instead state you agree with their point or disagree with their point. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Any extension of that time is at the sole discretion of the mayor or meeting chairperson per the council rules. The moderator will note those joining by phone for the mayor/chairperson. The fact that the meeting is online does not excuse poor behavior. The mayor retains the right to have people removed from the meeting as stated in the council.
And I will also read the statement. In order to avoid unnecessary fines from Oregon OSHA for violating governor's mask mandate, I'd like to note that there are signs requesting people to wear masks at the entrance of the building. Masks are available for the use of the back of the room, and this is an audible reminder that the mandate outlined in OSHA Workplace Advisory Memo 8.13.21. Tonight, I am honored to present an award that was given to one of our excellent employees we have within our city. A presentation tonight from the League of Oregon Cities Local Government Management Certificate for Administrative Services Manager Julie Fisher. A 4-year process requiring credited hours in every discipline in municipal management. At this time, it's easy to read with this thing off. At this time, I'd like to read a immediate release from them. Julie Fisher, an Administrative Service Manager of the City of Sweet Home, is the latest city official to complete the Local Government Management Certificate, LGMC program. The certificate is presented to individuals who complete 140 hours of training in 10 core areas that provide knowledge and skills critical for success for local government management. Fisher has served the city since 2012, where she has started in the planning department as a planning assistant. In 2015, she was promoted to executive department as the administrative assistant. In 2021, her position was reclassified as administrative service manager. I was able to gain valuable knowledge in specialized areas of local government, such as public service, personnel management, communication, and public policy, said Fisher. This will enable me to better serve the elected officials, city staff, and our community. The LGMC program is designed to enhance the leadership and problem-solving capabilities of Oregon government officials. Participants are offered educational sessions regarding legal issues, budgeting, governance, personnel, and open meetings, and more. The LGMC program provides an opportunity for people to currently working in the public sector of the continued education in subject areas directly relevant to their jobs. League of Oregon Cities Executive Director Mike Coley said, "It's an amazing, inexpensive, very professional." At this time, I'd like to present back to Ms. Fisher. Congratulations.
3, 2, 1, smile.
Julie, how much did that cost you?
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Discussion on Old Mill property. We had I'll just go through a summary. We had an executive session meeting yesterday regarding this. We've outlined some our options of what we need to do to move forward. Our ultimate goal is to get that mill property developed. We feel we've been spinning wheels with that mill property, and so I think we've laid forth a plan that I think will be beneficial for us moving forward in developing it. I will say we had representatives of this council today that went and met with the county commissioners. We delivered a message as to what we felt our position was. And Councilor Gerson will read the letter so that everybody's aware of this letter. The letter, the message got across, but I'm not sure if the county commissioners took the letter as to how it was presented. So I think I will be as bold to say I think there were some feelings hurt today based on us present in our message to them, but we are struggling to figure out how to get that mill property developed, resolved, and moving forward. This has been quite a few years of struggles to get this back on the tax roll, and I think we're at a last option as to what we can do to make this happen. We do have a lot of cleanup that needs to be done, and that's still what's holding up the progress. So I think we've developed some options we think will help move this forward, and we'll see. That said, Councilor Gerson, would you like to go ahead and read the letter that was submitted forth to the commissioners today?
A month ago, our two bodies met in a public meeting work session to address the issues of the mill property in Sweet Home. During that session, several options were discussed and various opinions were presented. The final consensus of the council, and agreed upon by you, meaning the commissioners, was to put the entire property up for auction as a whole and present to potential buyers an outline of the vision the city has for the property. In a recent newspaper article, it was noted that, quote, County officials have said there are still a number of unknowns that hamper that process, unquote. If that is the case, why were we presented with this idea if indeed it is not an option? Now we have been told you as a body, the commissioners, have once again changed your course of action and are looking to parcel off and sell specific areas of the property. We are unsure as to why you have changed direction once again. Nevertheless, the council is opposed to the parceling off for the following reasons. 1, once the clean areas are sold, there would be no incentive for the dirty areas to be cleaned up and no one taking responsibility for them. 2, piecemealing the property diminishes the value of the whole. 3, the integrity of your word is a valued commodity, and the council wishes to hold you to it. We are keenly aware of the need to move on this property, and we have been trying to plan and collaborate with you over the 6 years I've been on council. I am aware you do not do master plans, but some type of plan which made clear your intent for the property, what cleanup needed to be complete for each phase to reach fruition, would have provided direction for both of our bodies. And now we are back to square one, with no plan, no visions for potential buyers, and no closer to completing the necessary cleanup to move forward. Sweet Home is on the move, and we as a council do not wish to stand still and wait another 10 years or even 1 year for this land to be cleaned up and utilized for the betterment of our citizenry. Sweet Home has added considerable tax revenue to the county over the past year because of our growth. We know this is going to continue, and this property can be seen as an important part of that growth or a continued eyesore. We know working with entities such as DEQ can be frustrating, but you have worked with them before on other projects in the county. You have established a relationship with someone in that organization who can move things along. So reach out, go over a few heads, get the paperwork needed, and move forward. Thank you.
Based on what came out of that meeting, from my understanding, was the county commissioners agreed to move this forward to a sealed bid the front end of the year. Probably either January or February. However, they're still not addressing the cleanup. So that's still going to be a hiccup. And I think based on our discussions of yesterday, hopefully we can come to a solution to figuring out the cleanup of this property. That's the only way that this will ever be developed. Ray, did you want to add anything to this in the meantime?
I think the letter speaks for itself, and
Yeah.
your comments are very accurate.
Blair, did you have anything you want to add to that?
I don't have anything else to add.
Just the point of, now that we're in open session, that is the council's letter to the county.
Yeah.
From the full council.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, this letter was from the council. Any councilors want to bring up anything regarding that before we move forward? Okay. At this time, request for council action, downtown streetscape and parking plan presentation. We have folks here tonight that are going to give us the presentation.
So as you remember, this is a project we've been working on this past year, and this is the final public meeting regarding the Streetscape Plan. And so David Doherty and Luzanne Smith from Doherty Landscape Architects are here to show us what they've come up with. We'll hear their presentation, and then there'll be an opportunity to review the boards and then to ask questions and give feedback.
Thank you, Blair. My name is David Doherty. We are the firm Doherty Landscape Architects, DLA, and we've been hired by the city to come up with a master plan of downtown revitalization and streetscape design that I think you're all aware of. I'm here with Luzanne Smith, an associate from the office. We're going to tag team a little bit and just walking you through where we're at with the project. It's finishing up. We have a little bit of refinement to do, but what we're here to do tonight is to just brief you on the progress that we've made and some of the recommendations. Also, a part of our team is Sando Engineering. They are providing lighting and parking recommendations for the downtown area. We also have KPFF Civil Engineers, who has been working with the infrastructure of downtown and cost estimates. Okay, we can move on. So the overall project goals, I think most of you are aware, and you know, we've had several meetings here in town to define these and to make progress. But it's really all about enhancing the pedestrian experience and doing so through a walkable downtown, a safer environment for crossing the street, especially Main Street, but also Long Street, providing attractive streets, ones that are inviting and beckon you to stop and enjoy the downtown as visitors are passing through, but also for the residents to have a place that they can call their own, a place that they're proud of, and they want to show it off to others. This is done through you know, landscape opportunities, the idea of incorporating art and sculpture into the downtown that reflects the identity of Sweet Home. Creating gathering spaces. There's a real need downtown for creating places of gathering, not just in the big events, but also smaller events, such as farmers markets, flea markets, and just any small downtown festivities. And then parking improvements. You know, there's opportunities to increase parking. Some of the pedestrian improvements require that we snare a parking space here and there, but we're counterbalancing that with adding it back in other places. Okay, we can move on to the concept plan here. So what you see here is just the overall master plan. I know you can't see all the details of it, but the project is defined mainly by the corridor of Main Street and Long Street to the south, and then we looked all the way over to Ames Creek and even the museum beyond to the west, and 18th Avenue to the east is really the core area of our study. You know, we saw the need to provide better pedestrian connections from Main Street to Long Street. Surprisingly, the streets seem to skip. You know, you go from 10th to 12th, but there's no 11th. And then you go from 13th to 15th with no 14th, and then 15th to 18th without anything in between. So there's real opportunities and a need to provide a better walkable connections between those two streets. Some of the initial concepts that we've looked at are creating a town plaza, making a recommendation for that, where that might be. There's opportunity for smaller pocket parks, just for smaller places to gather. There's a real need and enthusiasm from the community for a festival street, and we've actually identified 13th Street as being just that. And then there's we were surprised to find there's great opportunities for Long Street. Main Street, there's limited opportunities. You know, there was a streetscape project done there, a decade or so ago, and it's an ODOT corridor, so there's only so much that we can do there. Okay. So yeah, for the Main Street, there are a few existing bulb outs which are better, more improved pedestrian crossings, but we found there's more opportunities for that, and also for streetscape amenities, lighting, public art, trees, and landscaping. By the way, one important aspect of our study was to define what is the identity of Sweet Home. What do you want to have as kind of the branding? How do you want to project your identity to the others passing through? And there was a lot of discussion about that, but what it boiled down to was more of a timber theme, where some timber components can really reflect the heritage and history of the downtown, and why Sweet Home is here in the first place. Okay. So this is an example of some improvements that are possible along Main Street. This is looking at 13th Avenue, but there's underutilized bulb outs there already that can be enhanced. There's opportunities for new ones and improved pedestrian connections. You can see the street light there that takes on more of a timber theme. The ornamental ones in the median strip, we've recommended that those be removed. They could be used elsewhere. Okay. Other Main Street improvements include, this is near 13th, just east of 13th, where there's an existing bulb out, but it's just concrete, underutilized, kind of an eyesore really, but there's a great opportunity to spruce it up, provide landscaping, an actual seating niche, and a place for art for people to enjoy. Okay. Here's another example on Main Street where in front of the Rio, there's yellow paint, which means no parking. So it's just kind of an area of asphalt that's not used for anything. So we said, hey, why not provide a little bit of landscape there and a place for people to congregate, outside the theater, have some food, wait for a show or something. So there's that kind of opportunity that we did without losing parking spaces in that particular case. Okay. This is that median strip in Main Street that was done as part of that most recent Streetscape project. It surprisingly has a pedestrian-oriented lighting there, but if you're a pedestrian, you don't want to be on the median strip on the state highway. And so the idea would be to provide more pedestrian lighting along the streets where the sidewalks are. But then the idea came up through our public comment period that it would be a great place to have, instead of those lights, have art, have some public art along there. We thought that was a fantastic idea. The sculptural elements could be illuminated, so they provide a lot of appeal at nighttime. These images here are just things that have been done in different places in different cities, but the opportunity is for more local artists to come up with art and sculpture that really reflects the identity, heritage, culture, history, and natural resources of Sweet Home. And so we think that's a pretty exciting opportunity. As part of our study, we also looked at parking. Luzanne is going to cover parking and then go into some of the improvements that we see on Long Street.
Okay, so
let me just say, it came through at the public, some of the earlier public meetings, that my voice is really boring compared to Luzanne's, and so we definitely wanted her to be part of this.
I hope I can keep this interesting. All right. Okay, so parking is, there's been a lot of feedback. We looked at both public and private parking, but really our focus is on the public parking. And so what we try to do is, as we came up with the conceptual design, is we really try to look at how we can keep as much parking in the public spaces as possible, but also look at potential areas where we can add parking. So here we really reorganized what was existing, trying to keep as much as within the framework that's already there. So really just adding bulb outs where there wasn't parking, or we could just minimize how many parkings were taken. And then also we looked at these three areas on 10th Avenue, 13th Avenue, and 12th Avenue south of Long Street. And all three of these areas provided opportunities for additional parking spaces. So in the end, it actually, the final concept actually adds 5 parking to the public spaces. So that was really interesting, just working on this and seeing where the opportunities lay for parking and what could be done. So those were some of the parking recommendations. Moving on to Long Street improvements. So Long Street has a very different feel to Main Street. It is much more, it's much slower, much more of a pedestrian focus, and there seems to be a lot of opportunities to really activate the street on Long Street. So we propose to extend the sidewalk on Long Street. So currently the roadways are 14 feet wide, and by bringing those down to 11 feet, which is what is on Main Street, we can add that 3 feet to the sidewalk. This really allows to kind of activate that sidewalk, add all the different pedestrian, lighting, the art, the streetscape amenities, as well as landscaping and trees. And in addition to that, I think Long Street really provides a lot of opportunities for outdoor dining, but just people spilling out onto the sidewalk. They can really kind of enjoy that space and use it and create a lively environment on Long Street. So the next perspective just shows how that would work, looking at the different, having bulb outs at the intersections, incorporating those landscaping and trees within that, but then also providing a lot of space, because right now, as many of you know, in some locations on Long Street, you have trees in the sidewalk. There's a lot of obstacles to kind of get along the sidewalk there. So this really is just giving it some breathing room to expand and but in addition, add a lot of elements that will help liven the streetscape, and public art is included in that. The next image is just a rendering we did showing how that could potentially look, showing a mural, some art, you know, as those bulb outs come out, keeping the parking spaces, many of the parking spaces as they are on Long Street, but just really focusing on those corners, activating them. So the roadway will remain the same, the parking will remain the same, but then the sidewalk will increase. We've also looked at the sharrows, how the shared lane markings can be included here and tie into the bigger picture of how bike access is, how access on bicycles throughout the city, not just here, but how it connects to the bigger vision. And then finally, just kind of what we can do to encourage outdoor dining, really liven up the street with art, but also adding that layer of landscaping that really bolsters the streetscape and brings people, will bring people downtown and promote growth on Long Street. Okay. I'll hand it back to David now.
Okay. As mentioned earlier, 13th Avenue, you can move on to that slide, is really being seen as the festival street. And what we mean by that, it can be closed down at certain times of year, either the whole thing or half of it, to be used for events of various sizes. You know, during the concert season, during the summer, 4th of July, could be any kind of public outdoor event could be used for 13th Avenue. And what we've done is provided diagonal parking on one side, so that when there's not an event, it helps with the parking load. That we've increased the width of the sidewalk, so it's much more pedestrian oriented. We provided areas that could be used for stages for outdoor performances, whether it's song and dance or poetry or whatever, whatever the case may be. And so, you know, the idea is just to liven it up. We've connected it to the adjacent alleys to provide better pedestrian connections through the public alleys and from the interior parking lots. Okay. This is a view of 13th Street from Long Street looking north. And so you can see, this is very conceptual, but you can see that there's opportunities for a gateway. It says fun on 13th. We think it could be just that. There's people places, there's plazas for benches, there's places for art, and there's much more green landscaping there and a much safer pedestrian environment. Okay. And then this is looking at 13th from Main Street. So you can see that there's bollards in that rendering that show how the street could easily be closed to vehicular traffic, but opened up to people traffic. And you can see the vision of some of the activities that could be done there. We think that's all pretty exciting. The plan view shows a plaza, almost like an amphitheater type element in the center. that could be activated during these events. Okay. And then the part that you've all been waiting for, the overall costs. I'll remind you that this design work we've done so far is very conceptual. So these are preliminary costs, but we knew that it was important to take an initial look, and we worked closely with the engineers because that's where most of the cost lie, is in the infrastructure of paving, asphalt, concrete, new roads, curbs, relocating catch basins, and all that. So we broke the cost estimate up into 4 pieces. So that could be considered as potential phasing, or it just breaks down the numbers, so it's easier to understand where the costs are. And so you can see those. We have a further breakdown that will be part of the final report, but you can see that, for example, Main Street's about 2.2 million. Long Street, because the whole thing would be redone, is a 3.8 in that neighborhood. 13th Avenue, the Festival Street, 1.3 million. And then 10th Avenue, which is becoming one-way in this scheme with head-in parking, is 275,000, somewhere in that ballpark. So these are very preliminary numbers, but just a place to start and to help inform the city as to what the next phases are. Of course, the next steps would be to secure funding, identify where the priority areas are, and then move forward into more detailed design. Okay, so we can move on to the last slide. So, we're very excited about it. We hope that you are too. We know that the community contributed to these ideas, and we will finish up that report and submit it to Blair, and hopefully it will be a useful tool to move forward with some of these exciting improvements. And I don't know if we open this up to questions now, or is that coming later?
Yeah, this is gonna be a 2-part thing. Any questions of counselors regarding this to these folks?
I have a question. Do cost estimates include lighting for the trees, access to plugins and that kind of thing? And then the proposed light fixtures, I'm concerned about the brackets and stuff for banners, having that ability, or Christmas decorations. I mean, that's a huge concern.
Yeah, so so it doesn't include the electrical receptacle. That's just a more
For the
detailed-
trees.
For the trees, sorry, specifically. That's something more detailed that would come at a later stage. But the lights are the proposal is to have the banners included on the light. I think some of the boards
As shown there.
are showing with the actual banners and then the baskets as options. Yeah.
But of course, that could be added, in the next phase of design, that receptacles, there will be power going up and down the streets, so it would be pretty straightforward to connect receptacles at trees for Christmas lights and so forth.
Because one of the problems we have right now is many of our light poles that we use for decorations don't have power plugs for anything that's lighted.
Right.
And we need to be able to think forward and what. I recently drove to Sisters, and they are on steroids with the Christmas decorations, and I'm very envious. And so I'm just thinking of everything that we need to do to get there. And I do like this concept. It's great.
Yeah, we think that's a great idea to have that ability to eliminate the trees. And these cost estimates are pretty conservative. For example, I think we have about a 40% contingency. So I think that could be worked into the budget. But of course, these costs would all need to be refined during the further design process.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. I really like the idea of narrowing down Long Street because it is a pedestrian-friendly street. When you narrow down those roadways, people go slower, and so I appreciate that concept. I think those widened sidewalks would benefit the restaurants on that Long Street. So thank you.
Yeah, we were thrilled to find out that the travel lanes on Long Street are 14 feet wide, which is wider than I-5, and so those could easily be narrowed, and we increased the sidewalks on both sides of Long Street as a result.
They are some of the widest streets I've ever driven on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, go over to Prineville. Pineville's pretty wide.
Well, they used to design streets for an ox cart could do a 360. That's why some of these older towns have such wide streets.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, have you conceptually thought about an electric car plug-in station, electric station?
We've thought about it. This is really too preliminary at the conceptual level to include that, but we think it's a great idea. We're doing that in other streetscapes. For example, Paloma is going to have car charging stations.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good comment.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, you have to remember that Long Street used to be Main Street. Back when it was a mud hole. I've seen lots of pictures of that, but I really like this 13th Street thing. I think if we're going to move forward on any of this, I think we should do that first. That's just my opinion. And I am a little concerned with getting the power to those when you got blacktop, you got concrete and all that stuff, because you certainly don't want it up in the air. So that would be some sort of challenge to, and apparently it's not on this process. It's not on there. So when I see this picture of the banner here, I see a light there, but how are we going to get the power to that with all that blacktop and the concrete? That's going to be some. It's not going to be in your.
That would have to be trenched or bored.
Yes.
You can bore that underground.
Yes, I get that, but is it in this building?
I believe so. We'll
Okay.
have to check with the engineers, but that's a really good question because that is an expensive
It is
endeavor.
expensive,
So, and to broaden the idea of that Festival Street, a lot of that it depends on final design, but some of the things that you can do with final design, a lot of it you try to put underground because you're ripping up so much of the street in order to do these improvements that you might as well put in conduits and do that. But the great thing is if you have a street that's designed to be shut down on a regular basis and you're doing all that undergrounding, you can have areas where you know you're going to have vendors and you can have recessed boxes giving them access to water and power so that they can just set up right there and have what they need. And all of that can be underground. You could also have it in amongst the landscaping, that kind of thing. But you would want to have it all designed all at once in that detail to have those amenities available.
Well, and they can board that without tearing up a bunch of stuff. I've seen that happen, and it's very accurate. So
That's probably what would need to be done on Main Street if there's not existing sleeves there. But 13th Street that we're talking about, that would pretty much all be ripped out anyway. So it'd be really easy to get underground utilities in at that point.
Is there any other questions other than recommendations of councilors? The reason why I say that, because at this time I'd like to go maybe about 10-15 minute recess and councilors and the folks in the audience to walk over and look at a lot of the presentations. And then after the recess, we can come back and then give recommendations and go that route too. So not to challenge that, but let's look at it that way first. So if you don't mind, let's go ahead and recess for about 10-15 minutes, look at the concepts and then come back and then share our ideas and thoughts. So at this time, looking at the concepts at the wall, I do want to remind the background chatter. Let's keep it to a minimal because it has been interfering with our meeting. So please keep it to a minimal. Thank you. At this time, the concept that we've been shown at this time, present any ideas, thoughts, changes, comments for these folks so they could take back and put the final touches on this. So at this time, I'll turn it over to anybody that wants to, and that includes anybody in the back audience that want to make comments, but you'll have to introduce your name and address if you from the back if you want to bring the comments forth. At this time, I'll turn it over to anybody who wants to make comments, changes, and so forth.
So, like that's the question. I'm Mike handicapped here. So, on 10th Avenue, there's head-in parking, and it's not at an angle. While on 13th it is at an angle, and even on 12th it's just head-in. We have a lot of community members who drive rather large trucks, and that's very difficult. And so, why is there a reason that it wasn't at an angle? Is there?
If we put it at an angle, we'd lose spaces. So the 90-degree parking, you get more.
Okay.
And so, however, your point's a good one, and there could be some, maybe the spaces themselves could be a little bit wider than typical to accommodate larger vehicles.
I think that's a really good idea because of the doors on the trucks and the cars. If somebody just parks a little too close to the line, it makes it an unusable parking spot beside it, where if we had the largest possible parking places, then it could accommodate all vehicles and people's abilities, even those who are not always careful about how they park. So
It'll be a great consideration, for the next stage, more detailed design.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I agree with you there, but I don't know that I've ever seen that many cars parked on that street. It is in front of Subway, I understand that, but there's not much else going on in that particular, except for the chiropractor guy on the corner, and the phone company, they don't park anything there. They're all on the other side of the building, so I would think you have a lot more parking spots there, a lot. So anyway, that's just my thought.
So, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of questions. So I noticed the yellow arrow is going down the alleyways. The alleyways are very possibly something that could be renovated, uplifted, whatever you want to say. So I'm hoping that we kind of think about that a little bit, because yes, they're roadways, so to speak, but they still are could be accessible from the businesses, etc. So maybe the back of the businesses could be, I don't know. The other thing that I was thinking about was that you marked on there possible RV parking in the high school parking lot. Now, I've been a bear about RV parking for a long time in this town because there isn't any, and we get a lot of RVs going through town. So I'm not sure that's a good place for it because we don't have any say in that property, of course. So, but I would like us to consider where RV parking might be, although we're looking at just these two streets, I understand that. But the number of RVs that come down Main Street on a summer afternoon, it's a lot. So just an idea that I think we need to consider, that people aren't stopping because there's no place to park them.
I think that's a really good point, and RVs were discussed often during the process. The parking lot across from the school made sense, mainly because school's out of session when RVs are out and about, and so that space is available during the summers. Other places considered were Safeway, and there's really no perfect place for RVs, and so it is a challenge. So that is why across from the school seemed to make the most sense because of the other limitations.
There is also the possibility that the engineer brought up of renting that space. So if that's possibly renting the parking, the city rents it during the summer, that could be another option that could be considered. That some cities have done where there's limited parking, they rent private parking to be used. So, and in response to your question about the alleyways, I think there's a lot of opportunities with the alleyways. A lot of it is very flexible opportunities. Like you just mentioned, businesses using them in a flexible manner, putting flexible seating, maybe incorporating art to kind of add to make them more appealing to the pedestrian. We have sort of noted on there the alleyway coming off into 13th and out of 13th becoming a one-way, some people convenience there. So that would allow sort of the flow of traffic as well with pedestrians in that area for the festival. You could use that. So lighting is another good option to incorporate into within that. But definitely something we try to highlight in the final document as well.
The opportunity is to have it as a shared vehicular and pedestrian way and help with wayfinding and access to businesses and parking. So it is an opportunity. It's limited in its width, so there's not much you can do, but there could be a change in paving or something like that to, assist and make it a shared.
Or the lighting is a good idea.
Yeah. Lighting is a great idea.
Thank you.
Quick question, this will be for Blair, because we've now obviously nobody's seen it. It's kind of being kept under the cover right now, but the redevelopment of the parking lot plan of Safeway moving into the future, that's a lot of, for what they're planning on doing, that's going to still be a lot of open land right there. Have you seen that development as far as potential for RV parking off to one side that I could potentially see?
The only changes that I've seen to that, proposed to that area, are on the very corner. We've had a pre-app meeting with a developer about putting a development there, and we've only talked about parking that would be needed for that particular facility. Regarding the rest of the parking lot, there hasn't really been much discussion. However, the owner of the property has stated that assuming this development goes through, there would be some demolition involved of both the vacant buildings that are there next to Safeway. And so there's no indication about what would happen on the land that the rear building is on. And so there is space there.
That's what I was thinking, there's potential
but
there.
That's, again, it's privately owned space that the owner is looking at his options for what could go there. But that being said, there's probably an opportunity. Like any property owner, I'm sure he's open to options.
It's something to keep in back in mind if it's a potential down the road.
Mr. Mayor, the lady in the back was raising her hand by the door.
Hold up one second here so we can get a mic for you. Thank you.
I'm Helen Moak. I live at 40963 Highway 228 in Sweet Home. I've lived here since I was 8. I did move away twice out of state, but I came back. And I see so many crosswalks that don't have enough lighting. I have almost hit pedestrians. I've talked to several people that has the same thing. And if you guys can't get the street lights on each end of the crosswalks, when sometimes there's one, maybe two, but they're dim, why don't you stick them in the mid with all that artwork that you guys are talking about? Stick them up where the sidewalks, the crosswalks can be seen. Because to me, that's a good idea. It would help. Because I was in the Safeway parking lot the other night when a crowd of teenagers went across those crosswalk, and the gal pushed a little boy out of the way, and she's the one that got hit. She's in high school, and she was in the hospital for a while, I don't know if she's home yet or not, but I mean, it was bad. And there's been lots of people that tell me there's other crosswalks that have very little lighting. And we need all the help we can get with them.
Thank you for your input.
Mayor, if I can, I can address
go
some of that. Lighting certainly is something that's going to be a part of this project, and the lighting has been focused on where pedestrians are going to be, as in the sidewalks. And we've talked about the lighting in the median, how it doesn't really light up anyone, it just lights up the landscaping. That being said, I think there's certainly opportunities at the crosswalks, because for a street the size of Highway 20, you want to have a mid-block or a mid-crossing pedestrian refuge, right? So you can have a place to stop before you attempt to cross the next 2 lanes of traffic. Obviously, I think there's an opportunity to light that up and make sure that that's well lit. And so I think the final design could certainly incorporate some lighting improvements on crosswalks in the middle there. That being said, our lighting right now on our streets is designed for vehicles and the roadway, and not necessarily lighting up those pedestrian areas. And so once you get those pedestrian areas lit up, it makes it easier for drivers to see to the side what they're doing, because right now those lights are they're focused right on the roadway to help drivers see what's in the roadway itself and not necessarily what's coming.
Sorry if I can. No.
Yeah.
Okay, we gotta have order here, so you have to have name and address if you're gonna speak. You got, then at that time, go ahead.
Oh, I don't have any comments.
Hi, I'm Helen Moak. Anyway, they have some street lights. They're out there by Lebanon Community Hospital. And what they do is, out there at the crosswalks, they push a button and these yellow lights will flash, letting drivers know that there's somebody crossing the road. We thought maybe that could work too. Thank you.
We have actually looking into some of those, and I think some of those are being currently implemented, so they are being looked at. So, Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question for, so we're talking about parking for RVs. You know what the folks that do the house down by Speedy Mart, was by the doctor's office or the dentist's office there? Do you have any? Have they given us any idea what they plan on doing there?
My understanding is they're open to ideas. I don't. They haven't shared any plan with me. I've talked with them a little bit about it, but it's been mainly just bouncing ideas back and forth, but nothing concrete.
Well, they were talking about having some music things in there, so it's anything. But because on that particular piece of property, they tore that house down because it was pretty bad.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot there that's pretty big between that Speedy Mart and the Commerce Place. So, and that goes all the way through now.
Yep.
So that might be an option.
It is an opportunity spot.
Mindful that people have their RVs. I think we need to be mindful that when people have RVs and they're stopping to get groceries and different things, they're not going to want to walk very far. And yet we don't want to leave a spot that's so big that only an RV can park there, because then we're losing day-to-day parking. So we just need to be really careful as we have this discussion that we don't limit possibilities for space that people may not want to park in. They want to be next to the Safeway. They want to be right up next to the high school. But where are they stopping with their RVs? And we haven't done any kind of... We haven't looked at that very closely. Where are they going? Which gas stations are they typically using? That kind of thing.
We also keep in mind with RVs, your access. You can't just quickly turn a corner with an RV too. So you got to give enough space. So to say here's a parking lot for them, but can they get in there? And if they got a big RV, that might not be the case. So something to keep in mind. Any other comments or questions? Okay. At this time, it was an RCA, so I just need a motion second to allow these folks to move forward with the final plan.
I'll second that.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler.
Yes. The record shows 6 ayes with 1 absent, and approval of moving this forward. Thank you. And thank you for coming, safety.
Very much.
Moving on now for new business. RCA for resolution number 27 for 2021, City of Sweet Home Fleet Policy Revisions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This begins, I believe, on page 11 of your packet. We just had an instance where we had cause to review our fleet policy. We found some discrepancies in some of the numbers, so we're asking to make those consistent, and some mild language changes. Essentially, what we're looking to do is bring everything. You can see we removed the 3 and turned it into 5 so that it would match the matrix on the following page. Other than that, I think the changes are minimal and mostly grammatical in nature. But
Any questions of council? Council directive.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 27 for 2021 as presented.
I second it.
Motion and second by roll call, please.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let the record show 6 ayes, no nays, with 1 absent, or approval of resolution number 27 for 2021. Next up, RCA for resolution number 28 for 2021, Oak Heights Elementary School street parking change.
this begins on page 49 of your packet. I'm going to let Chief Lynn take the lead on this one.
Yes, thank you. Before you was some information and a proposed resolution for your consideration associated with some potential parking changes in front of the Oak Heights Elementary School on Elm Street. In essence, a couple months ago, both city staff and school district staff began discussing options on improving the flow of traffic and the safety of students and vehicles during drop-off and pickup times of students. And so staff has devised a potential option that separates the buses from the parent vehicle drop-offs. Currently, and what's historically been happening is that both the buses and the parent vehicles kind of blend together and drop off at the same point. And so it creates a lot of congestion there. Congestion slows down some traffic flow, slows down the itinerary of the buses, and also creates more of a safety hazard for students all throughout that area. So the plan has been devised to separate the buses from the vehicles. And in order to do that, the intent is to have the buses separated and parking along Elm Street directly in front of Oak Heights just during student pickup and drop-off times. With this, in order to enforce any of that parking restriction, it needs a council resolution so that the police department could enforce that if the need were to come up. The proposal is to limit parking on the 600 block of Elm Street directly in front of the Oak Heights Elementary School just during school days from between the hours of 7 a.m. to 7:40 a.m. And that's during the drop-off, obviously, and then during the times of 1 p.m. to 2:20 p.m. for the pickup times. The school is currently operating this. They've sent out letters to the parents of the students in that area, and they reported back. I talked with the principal at the school as well as the Josh Darwood. They've had a lot of positive thoughts on how this is working. The separation of buses and vehicles, parent vehicles, has apparently worked wonders up at the junior high school, and they're hoping that it can continue to the elementary school as well. And so before you is a proposal. It takes a council resolution to alter any parking restrictions in the community. And so for your consideration, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, I saw Josh the other day, and they're prepared to move. So I think it's a really good idea. I would recommend Josh too. So that, and park right out front. It's way better. If you ever see the bus have to go up Fifth Avenue to make a big U-turn, come back down, you've got cars and buses coming in there at the same time. So I think it's a really good idea.
Any other questions for councilors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a question. So will there be a crossing guard there to cross Elm Street? Because you know that parents are going to park on the opposite side of the school, and the kids are going to be running across the street to get into the school.
Yes, I believe their plan is to still have a crossing guard. They have one currently in place.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I also like this idea, as all my children have attended Oak Heights. I know what the mess is, so I appreciate the solution to this.
So I have just a real quick question for clarification. So it says from 7 a.m. to 7:40. Why didn't we go to 8? Would that be easier for parents to remember? Is there a reason that, and from 1 to 2:20 instead of bringing it down to 30? Is there a particular reason they did that?
Yeah, there's the recommendations for the specific time. I asked the district for the specific time, and I think they were trying to narrow it down to be the least impactful to others in the area. And so I think they narrowed it down to what they thought was appropriate and they could easily function with. So the actual times I left up to them for their drop off and pickups.
Yeah. I just know that over the years, they've changed the times of start and stop of school. And so that's why I was asking that, keep it simple is all I was thinking.
And the kids that drag their feet.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think also sometimes when parents volunteer, such as myself, it's nice that is open around 8 o'clock so that you could, or right before 8 o'clock, so you can go in and volunteer and park right there. So I thought it was a very creative solution to the problem there.
Thank you for that.
Okay, any other questions? If not, council directive.
Mr. Mayor, I recommend that we make a motion to adopt resolution number 28 for 2021, Oak Heights Elementary School street parking change as presented. Resolution would allow for enforcement of no parking zone in front of Oak Heights Elementary.
Second that.
Motion and second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Muller.
Yes. Let the record show I have 6 ayes with no nays with 1 absent. Approval of resolution number 28 for 2021. Moving next, RCA for IGA of Technology Services with OCWCOG.
This is a recurring contract we bring before you. We use it. We have never used it in my tenure here. It's for IT technology services in case we have an emergent need for something in which our normal contract IT service providers would not be able to fulfill. An example of when, and this OCOG is our Council of Governments. An example would be about 7 or 8 years ago, we got hit with a virus, and OCOG and the COG was able to come in and help us to deal with that quickly and fairly efficiently. So while we like having Step Up here, and we now have a person with us in the building or in the city part-time to help with our day-to-day needs. In the occasion we would have an emergent need, this simply spells out that we can reach out to them. The costs are included in it. But again, I'll share with you, we have not used their services in my tenure here.
So, Mr. Mayor, I just have a question. So, this is designed to be a quick answer to a problem, right?
Correct.
But they also include a work order. So if you submit a work order, how is that going to be a quick response? I'm just questioning that, the process.
I'm not gonna submit a work order if I need them. I'm gonna call them and say I need you now, and you guys can deal with the work order later.
Okay, I got that. Okay.
And then we'll fill out the work order as quickly as we can.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And I might add to that, the COG has worked historically to try and be able to provide IT services to smaller communities. Certainly something we keep on our radar. Historically, we just haven't felt like they could meet our needs. So this is a blanket contract that they use for other communities as well.
Any other questions? Council Directive.
I motion to approve the 2021-22 IGA for IT services with Oregon Cascade West Council of Governments as presented.
So I'll second that.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Counselor Trask?
Yes.
Counselor Gorley?
Yes.
Let the record show 6 ayes with no nays with 1 absent. Approve of the IGA for technology services with OCW COG. Next up, RCA for City of Sweet Home LBCC Small Business Development Center Agreement.
This begins on page 61 of your packet. A little bit of an oversight on staff's part when you look at the dates. We've been working as part of trying to create an entrepreneurial environment within our community. You'll recall, hopefully, that the SBDC, Small Business Development Center, is a resource for local businesses. So someone looking to start a business can go to SBDC. They can get help with a marketing plan or a business plan and help them get their feet off the ground. It can help with some funding issues. It's a very small amount that they've asked for in order to be present within our community. Admittedly, COVID has, the SBDC was actually putting courses on in this room prior to COVID, which was drawing entrepreneurs from our community and Lebanon. And they did a pitch one time that actually, or was that rain?
I think there was a participant from Albany that even came here.
Yeah, we've had Albany as well. So it's a great resource. It's inexpensive. It's free for any entrepreneur to utilize those services. They've just asked if we could try and help support them in a small way. This is a budgeted expense. We did include it in the budget. We simply didn't bring the contract in front of you earlier in the year. And that is my fault. I apologize for that.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to table this for a little bit more information. I realize it's a small amount of money, but I don't know how many businesses have been aided by this concern. I'm also concerned with the fact that this is talking about the Foundry collective, which we don't have in this community. It also talks about the Corvallis-Benton County Community Development Office that they work with. We don't work with them. So I would like to kind of clean this up a little bit if we can and bring it back to us.
Yes, and please forgive me, that oversight is my fault. This was taken wholesale from the previous agreement, and just I updated the agreement itself and not the scope of work order, which is where those errors were. And so I really should have made it clear. Also, we have received some reports from the SBDC over the last year that do talk about some of the businesses. It's not as specific as the work plan calls for, but I can share those with you as well.
I would also like to know their cooperation with RAIN, because we do give money to RAIN also. So what's the working relationship there?
Would you like me to answer that now or at the future?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the future is fine.
Okay.
I think unless there's any objections by counselors, we'll go ahead and table this. Are there any objections?
I just have a question. Do we have a time certain to revisit this?
I'm going to propose January 11th,
Thank you.
but if there's any objections for tabling it. Okay. Go ahead. We'll go ahead and table this to our meeting January 11th to get all the information. So if anybody has questions, please get with Blair so that we can bring this back for January 11th.
Thank you.
Now moving on to ordinance bills. I don't have a first or second. I have a third. Ordinance number 8 for 2021, ordinance number 1300 Bs and Bs keeping by title only.
Do we have an ordinance number on there?
Mine says 1300.
Ordinance bill number 8 for 2021, ordinance number 1300, Sweet Home Ordinance regulating the keeping of honeybees.
Any questions of counselors? Okay, none. So we'll need to move this now, since this was the final reading, to a roll call vote, please.
Do we need a motion?
Motion and second, yes, I'm sorry, but we need to vote.
So moved. Sorry.
I second.
Motion second by roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Counselor Sanchez,
Yes.
Mayor Mahler,
Yes,
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
that's 6 ayes, no nays with 1 absence. Approval of ordinance number 8 for 2021. Any reports of committees? I think it's been pretty quiet, so nothing to report. Okay. Mayor's report. I just want to touch upon the parade. I thought it was an excellent parade. We had 25 entries, which was pretty good, especially since we had a lot of rain coming down. So that was very impressive. There was a lot of great floats. I thought the turnout was pretty good. Maybe, with rain, it could have been better, but obviously rain is Oregon. But I thought it was great overall. So I like all the community coming together and showing that support. That was pretty good. A reminder for council members, we have no meeting the rest of this month, so we will be reconvening on January 11th. I just want to say for everybody, including city staff and councilors, have a wonderful holiday and a great New Year's, and looking forward to working with you back here first of the year. City manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you to recognize Nathan Conroy with Oregon Rain. We misunderstood his comment card, and he would actually like to address the council, so we missed that earlier. So if the mayor would indulge us, if you wouldn't mind, please.
I come forth, name and address, sir. And thank you for coming this evening.
And Councilor Gerson, your question might be, it's like somebody knew you were going to do that. I mean, because normally he'd have been the front end and you wouldn't, I don't know if we would have had that whole, anyway. Sometimes things are just meant to be.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor, and it's exciting to be a part of this effort to support entrepreneurs here in Sweet Home. My goal this evening is simply to just quickly introduce myself and talk a little bit about what we've been up to. I'm Nathan Conroy. I'm the new venture catalyst for Lynn and Benton counties. I took this position only a few short months ago because it gave me a chance to serve communities that I grew up and have cared about all my life, as well as blend into that my own entrepreneurial experience. So I grew up in Corvallis, knew Sweet Home well, mostly stopping at the A&W on my way to and from Foster or Trout Creek Campground, Hoodoo. And so it's been a joy to get to know the community more. I became a high school teacher. I taught at Sherwood High School and then started my own STEM education company. It's now an ed tech company that's used across the country with students. I'm really proud of that. But when my family relocated back to Oregon, I did a Google search for supports that exist in these communities to support entrepreneurs like myself. I found Rain, the person who had my position before me, took me around Corvallis, took me around Albany, showed me different places where I might have a work spot, introduced me to funding opportunities, to mentors, to just a supportive network of entrepreneurs. And when the position became available, I decided that this would be a great opportunity for me to apply and give back some of the service that I had received. Recently, actually just this week, we're finishing up our accelerator that has helped entrepreneurs who have had to switch to online business during the pandemic. So it's an accelerator focused on online digital sales and marketing. We just finished this past week filming of local entrepreneurs, including the folks down at Radiator Supply House and the two women who run the Tipsy Gypsy tap trailer here in town. So we're really excited about a video that's being produced for the city highlighting entrepreneurs and businesses here. Doing a lot of, I'm in communities, I serve 8, but I'm in out in the communities at least 3 days a week, usually all day. I was in Sweet Home all day today, hosting what I call co-working hours at the library, at Sugar Vibes, just really trying to meet entrepreneurs where they are and help them get past whatever hurdles they might face. I'm really excited for the year to come, and I know that Blair's maybe talked a little about the ROI grant that we received, but I'm happy to talk more about those kind of things in the future and continue to provide reports about what we are doing and the feedback that we're getting from entrepreneurs in the community. So just thank you. It's an honor to be a part of the community here. Thank you.
Actually, I haven't brought that up, so if you want to touch on that, that'd be great too.
Just exciting news that so Rain operates in other counties. In Lane County, there's actually 2 other entrepreneurs and residents. These are people who own and operate businesses and serve as mentors to other businesses in the area. Currently, there's not one of those in Lynn and Benton counties, and just a month or so ago, we received funding to make that happen. So we're essentially doubling the capacity of Rain to serve local entrepreneurs. So we're proud of that.
Any questions of councilors?
I have a question. So do you also offer outreach to home people who do their business out of their home?
Yes, and in fact, that was a conversation I had today, was with a Sweet Home resident who is a stay-at-home mother and operates a business and would like help growing that.
Okay, right. So how long is this video you're putting together? I'm just curious.
So far, the ones that I've seen have been around 5 to 6 minutes. They usually feature 2 interviews with kind of city officials and then at least 2 to 3 local businesses is usually how it works. They're being produced by a Corvallis studio called Horsepower Productions.
Okay. I'll talk to you about that later.
Okay.
Anyway, any other questions? All right, thank you for coming this evening, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This morning we had Chamber of Commerce coffee with a colleague at Trash to Treasure. Nancy Patton was gracious enough to host, and she supplied goodie bags for everybody who was in attendance this morning. And if you don't know, Nancy Patton has actually met former President Donald Trump. She shared that with us, but it was a good event. There were 20 people there. It was a very positive event this morning, which was good. Rain hosted their event at Sugar Vibes this morning. Nathan was actually there with us first at Trash to Treasure and then jumped over to Sugar Vibes. As the mayor shared, this is our last meeting of the year. So I think we as staff want to wish you as council happy holidays, happy new year, and thank you for a good year and working with us and trying to make Sweet Home a better place. The all staff and family potluck is tomorrow night. Counselors are absolutely invited. We hope to see you there. 6 o'clock for the magic. 6 o'clock if you want to come and sample some water chestnuts wrapped in bacon, cooked in a homemade barbecue sauce. I'm not bragging, but they're damn good. But we would love to see you there with us as well. And you can bring your families too. A reminder, Christmas and New Year's fall on Saturdays this year. So we recognize those holidays the previous day on Friday. So we'll be closed on the 24th and the 31st. And I have to share with you, we continue to work on our managed homeless facility. And it appears Lynn County is going to be able to sign property to us on January 4th. And at that point, then we can begin site preparations. We are now putting together timelines to get all of the things done we need to get done. Grading, rock, fencing, installation, moving of the annex, those kinds of things, and infrastructure, water, sewer, and power. I need to recognize both FAC, Commissioner Tucker, and Dr. Horton. The three of them have gone out of their way to help us secure funding for this facility. FAC has done it through traditional grants, but as well as just through their network with private donors. Commissioner Tucker, the same. He's very passionate about helping the homeless. He reached out to a private investor he knows who has had a very positive response. Dr. Horton reached out to the Oregon Community Foundation, and once there's an agreement in place with FAC, we will have a check waiting for us. FAC actually notified me today they think they may have secured a $100,000 grant today for this facility. So again, their goal and our goal is that this facility would be built with minimal to no cost to taxpayers. $100,000 goes a long way, but I can tell you our preliminary numbers say that's still not going to be quite enough with the infrastructure costs we have to do. So we're still working on it. And with that, I would answer any questions that you might have.
Tomorrow night, we're going to be where?
Tomorrow night is at the Jim Riggs Community Center. I apologize. Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, thanks, Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Questions of our department directors?
Mr. Mayor, if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a report, I think, in the packet, so certainly I can answer questions if you have them, but really I just wanted to take a second to say thank you to the council, staff, and members of the community since the passing of my father. The outpouring of support has been nothing short of incredible, and definitely welcomed, and I'm very thankful for that. So thank you to all of you for that.
Any questions for the directors? Okay, any directors that you want to add anything? Okay, city attorney?
Well, everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Council business good of order, anything? If not, we will adjourn at 8:04.